All right, number 97. So I support the president. Number 97.
Good evening. First off, hey, thanks for holding the town hall. I appreciate it.
As you know, I've held them every year I've been in office. This is our 10th town hall in the district. We have 2 more counties. We want to go to every county and then come back next year and do it again.
So my question's about Syria, and I'd like for you to reflect on what is the recent stability or instability since the recent death of al-Baghdadi? And what is your projection on what that's going to have on the upcoming presidential election next year?
Okay, look, presidential election is 12 months away. 12 months in foreign policy is an eternity. You don't know what's going to happen. But since you bring up Syria and Turkey, right? Because it's actually interesting because I was this last series of town halls were kind of conducted at the time, starting at the time just after the Turkey and the Turkish invasion of northern Syria, and this is obviously the latest town hall meeting. And in the last 2 town hall meetings, yesterday and earlier today, I had no questions on Syria and Turkey. Now, why are there no questions on Syria and Turkey? Because the president actually made the right decision on Syria and Turkey. And the news didn't report what the accuracy was. We had a meeting with the president three Tuesdays ago. The president said, this is the way it went, this is the way it happened, not what you read in the paper. Mr. Erdogan called, and now remember, this is a 200-year-old struggle, constant cross-border aggression. The Kurds in northern Syria, they believe it's their country. They want to take parts of Turkey, so they attack into what would be Kurdistan, the Kurdish parts of Turkey. Then they retreat back across the border, cross-border skirmishes. Mr. Erdogan had enough of it. He called up the president. He said, I'm going into Syria next week. I'm going in. This was not a, will you let me in? It's like, I'm going in. We've had enough, I'm going in. The president calls up his generals and say, how many people do we have in the way? Because he says, look, and Mr. Erdogan said, I'm going to go in and I'm going to establish a buffer zone. I'm going to drive the Syrian Defense Forces, which are mostly Kurds, back several miles. There's going to be a buffer zone. He calls his generals. He says, how many people we have in that area? The general says, it's classified, so it wasn't exact number. He says, 3 or 4 dozen. He asks the general, are they in danger? The general goes, yeah, they're in danger. You have 2 armies that hate each other, are going to fight in this area. We're caught in the middle. Of course they're in danger. The president says, get them out of there. Because the president realizes, first of all, he ran 3 years ago, he told the American people, I'm going to find a way to get us disengaged from long-term Middle Eastern involvement with boots on the ground. Bring our men and women home. So he brought them home. But then he also said to Mr. Erdogan in the same phone conversation, but if you do anything that you shouldn't do, humanitarian-wise, there will be sanctions imposed on Turkey. Now that's actually a pretty big thing to do to one of our NATO allies, where we have Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, 50 nuclear weapons down there. They've let us have that air base throughout the entire Cold War. Very important strategically in the Cold War. That actually takes a lot of nerve to tell the president, oh, by the way, you do anything, we're going to slap sanctions on it. And Mr. Erdogan probably realized that was true because Congress obviously wanted us to put sanctions on as well. So what happened? So he went across the border. 2 days later, Mr. Pence goes over there, negotiates a ceasefire, allowing the Syrian Defense Forces, the Kurds and Syrian Defense Forces, to peacefully retreat out of this buffer zone. And the big to-do is, well, the Russians are going to patrol the buffer zone. Okay. Ask the Russians how Afghanistan worked out. Their long-term involvement in Afghanistan. They want to get involved in the Turkey-Syria border? Let me tell you something. I'll sign off on that any day of the week. That's a mess. But if this plan works, that we've created a buffer zone, it'll be the first time in decades it's been a buffer zone, the first time we're not having cross-border attacks, and it might work. The president's absolutely right. He's like, they tried to do this for decades. This might work. He's right. That's why I don't get any questions about it, because you know what? They're not fighting anymore. There is a buffer zone.
Yeah, it was a
This
total
president did the right
genocide,
thing.
not like Are you kidding me?
What's that?
They're all dead.
Oh,
It was a
come on.
total Kurdish genocide. Are you kidding
Come on, they're all dead.
There's no
There's-
point.
Come on. Look, we get it. You don't like the president, we get it, but those are the facts. The facts
The
are.
facts are there were 2,000 more troops deployed to Saudi Arabia the next day.
Yeah,
to
but they're-
protect oil.
Yeah, but well, okay. We're not. I hope I pull your number.